Oh my gosh. You know what? 50 degrees today. 50 degrees. How do we go from -6 yesterday in the early morning to 50 degrees today? Isn't that crazy? It's just so. Hi everyone. Everyone's joining in here. How's everyone doing today? So I'm going to let everybody jump in here. So I'm curious, what is the weather like where you're at today? I'm sure it's nice and sunny somewhere, probably freezing cold somewhere else. And today we've just had the most interesting weather. Yesterday when I woke up, it was -6 degrees, super cold. And today it's literally like the high 40s. So it's at least nice and sunny and the snow's melting. But yeah, 44 in Ohio. Feels like spring, Karen. You know what? I'm just like blown away. I'm like, it's just, the weather's crazy. And it'll probably be like 10 degrees tomorrow. So I don't get how the weather works at times. 51 in sunny Illinois. Okay, that sounds nice. 66. So wow. But as everybody's joining in here today, I just hope that everyone is having a fantastic Tuesday. I was about to say Wednesday for whatever reason. But yesterday was 84 degrees. Melissa, that sounds amazing. So I would give anything to be in that weather right now. So if you are new here, welcome to Gloria Horn Sewing Studio. We're located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And today we are doing our Bernina Day today. So I'm going to show you guys some really fun techniques on these two awesome machines behind me. I have the Bernina 570, which is one of our favorite and one of the most popular Berninas. And then we also have one of my coolest and favorite sergers is the Bernina L890. So a really cool serger as well. I'm going to show you guys some really cool techniques today, some different feet, and a little bit about the features on the machines that you might not know are built in case you already have this machine or maybe you're considering upgrading to a new one. But I think one of the coolest things I got to show you guys today, and I was going to show this last Thursday, but our camera died and we were also going on a little bit late. But look at these two quilt blocks right here. And I just want everybody to guess what machine these were made on, both of these. Because if you're gonna think that it's the 570 behind me, you're actually wrong. And yes, they do have straight seams, you know, that can be pressed open. So this is something really cool here. And if you guys have been around for a while, you guys might have seen me do this one a couple months ago, back in summer actually. But I'm going to show you guys today how you can actually quilt on the serger using what's called our serger straight stitch, or also known as the chain stitch. So it's really cool. If you have a serger, you might not even know that you can actually quilt on it and make full quilt blocks, full entire quilts. There's so many cool techniques you could do with it. And I'm going to show you guys also how to do half square triangles, which seems to be the base for a lot of quilts. And we're going to do all of it on the serger without a rotary cutter. So we could just ditch that. We don't have to worry about anything. And we just kind of marked out our lines with a little friction pen over here. And I'm going to do this all on the L890 over here. But I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the machine first, some of the really cool features that makes it stand out compared to other sergers on the market. Because there's some really interesting things that you wouldn't know could be on a serger. So I'm going to jump over here really quickly. Okay, so this is the Bernina L890, and there are so many amazing features with it. And it is one of the coolest sergers that are on the market. And there's so many awesome features, I don't even know where to begin at. But I guess I should start off with the basics. So it is both a cover stitch and overlock. So it is one of those combo sergers that you get the best of both worlds. So whether you're hemming something or you need to sew your seams together, you're able to do both of those on this lovely machine right here. And it has one of our absolute most favorite things that is a must-have on a serger. And we do have that jet air threading. So I'm going to show you guys how you could thread the machine, how it works, because you might also notice too, this is probably the first ever serger that you've ever seen that has a touch screen on it that actually will walk you through and guide you through everything whenever we're threading our machine, which is really, really awesome. But another really cool thing too about the serger is that we have this extension table that actually comes with it. And not many sergers come with an extension table that we could take off to also reveal a free arm, which is really nice if you're working with knits and maybe you're sewing the cuff of your sleeves here, and instead of kind of flipping it inside out, you could keep it right side up and use that free arm. And another really cool thing too is that our foot actually does pivot out of the way so that we can release our threads or snip anything whenever we're chaining off. So that's another really great thing about this serger, is that you could pivot this foot out of the way so you could get in here and clean or remove any of your threads from your cover stitches. So let me start off from the beginning here though, because I want to show you guys threading the machine and getting everything set up. And let me just kind of take a peek on the back here. There we go. So right now I have our machine set up for the 2-thread chain stitch. This is also known as our serger straight stitch. And what we're going to be using this one for is whenever we go to quilt, or doing any of our quilt blocks or straight seams. But I want to show a little bit about the other stitches and how the machine's set up and threaded, because I'm going to actually unthread it and completely walk through the entire process of threading any of the stitches for you guys here. Okay, I'm going to grab a pair of snips. So whenever we look at the screen here, it's really helpful to have this built in on your serger because it actually walks you through all the steps with a video guide. So let's just tap this side right here up in the top corner. And first it's going to ask if we want to save that stitch and put it in our favorites for maybe the length that we altered it to, if we had it at the perfect length that we wanted. But I'm just going to hit the X button right there. And then it shows us all of our different stitch options, which is so amazing. So I can tap on number 1 here, and I can see this is a 4-thread overlock. And I'm just going to tilt this screen a little bit. Maybe we could lower that light so there's not a glare. But what's really cool is it's actually going to walk us through every single step of the way. So it tells us to first lift our presser foot. And then it also gives us a video guide for threading every single individual looper. So, it's going to tell us to unthread the following ones with snipping the thread, pulling everything out, which I just think is so awesome and helpful with those video guides because it shows me exactly what I need to do. And then it's going to tell us to attach which presser foot. So we're going to put our standard presser foot on. It shows how to do that with the manual lift in the back, the trigger release for the feet. And what I love about the 892 is that it also uses all those different snap-on serger feet from Bernina that we do know and love as well. Alrighty, and then it also tells us which positions to put our needles in. So we have 5 different needle positions here on the machine. So we have our 2 in the back for our overlock or our flat thread stitches, and then we have our 3 needle spots here for our cover stitches. So if we're doing a single cover stitch with the chain stitch, which I have one of our needles in for, or maybe a 2 needle or a 3 needle, you have all those different options available. And then it also shows us things like activating the knife. So we have our little knife activator right here on the side. So, and it just pops up really easy. So whenever we are quilting, it's nice to be able to kind of flip it on and off. Very easy with this trigger on the side of the machine underneath. And then it also tells us about adjusting the cutting width as well. So our cutting width knob is actually going to be right here in the front. So maybe if I'm making a rolled hem, I might want to go more in, or maybe I'm just doing a standard overlock stitch and I want to go all the way to number 5 here. So but we're able to adjust that distance for our cutting width. And then it also shows, attaching the different inserts. So I might take off our cover stitch tray right here, and they come off very easy. They just pop on and off. So you could kind of swap out from an overlock to a cover stitch with ease. And there's also this really nice seam guide attachment that does come with the machine that we could use to set up 4¼ inch, which lines up right with that little built-in groove right there. So whenever we are quilting on the serger, we don't even have to second guess it. And we could just use that as a nice fabric guide. Alrighty. And we also do get a trim bin with the machine too. I always say I love a trim bin with a serger. You have all those loose threads and scraps that come off whenever we are serging. So it's nice to have them in a bin so we could easily just dump them in the trash instead of them kind of going everywhere over our workspace. So, but we could see here that it does explain every single step of the way, which I absolutely love about this serger. And then it also will set that stitch for us too. It will set the tension here for us for what the recommended tension is for that stitch, which I also love too. And then you could go in and manually increase if you want to for certain projects. I find that the preset tension works perfect for everything that I serge over. But I want to just show setting up our 2-thread chain stitch so that we can quilt on our serger here. So I'm going to tap our stitches, and I'm going to scroll to number, not that one, let's do number 16. And then we're going to follow all little steps here. So I'm even going to unthread this so I could show you guys how easy this is. So I'm going to just lift my foot real quick. And if you ever have to release your threads, maybe you are switching out, and you go to pull and they're in there tightly. If you turn your hand wheel on the side of your serger the opposite way, that will actually release your threads for you so that you could pull them out to change. And this is what we love about the serger here too, is that we do have the jet air threading. So let's turn this knob right here over to the threading part, and then we're going to turn the hand wheel towards us until those tubes lock in place. So we'll just follow the steps here. We'll put on our foot. We're actually going to, for quilting on the serger, keep our standard foot on with the machine. I have my needle in the right center position, and I have my knife deactivated. I'm going to follow through to the threading part. So let's start off with the purple end. And there's 5 different spool pens on this serger. What's nice is they all have a color coding mark up at the top here as well. And here, so that you never accidentally confuse them. And we'll just follow the machine's guide here with threading it, which I absolutely love. Now, the jet air threading, you might notice that there isn't like a push button here. Instead, we're actually going to use our foot control. And whenever I hover over that and press down, you'll hear it start to activate. It's actually very, very quiet. And then it just shoots through just like that. Maybe I'll add a little bit more slack. And there we go. It threaded that lower looper for us in an instant. I absolutely love how that jet air threading does work with this serger here. Now, we're going to thread the other step right here. So we're going to come through here. And then you might notice that there's 2 different little threading guides. So one's going to be for our overlock needles, one's going to be for our cover stitch needles. So this is where I love how the screen incorporates with the machine here, because this might seem a little confusing on itself, even reading a thread card. Having a video guide makes it super easy for me to know exactly where I have to thread through which spots. So we'll come down through here. We're going to go under, and then we're going to go up and over this 3rd one right here. And then we'll follow along the other guide. And we'll go above our needle here. And then you also do get this little push-in needle threader with the machine. What I also love is just look how amazing this is. So sitting in the cover of the machine, you have all the tools that you would need so you don't lose them. So the screwdriver to switch out my needles, my little lint brush to keep everything cleaned. I can fit a pack of needles in here, my needle threader, and then also my tweezers, which my tweezers are missing, so I guess I did lose them a little bit. But let me put the foot down here. We'll follow this little arrow indicator, and then what we do is we're going to thread this right here. So we can hold this, and then if we push in, it helps kind of push our thread through. So you want to kind of keep it taut. There we go. So it pushes the thread through, and then you could pinch it in the back to make that loop. So that's how the needle threader works with this serger here, is that it's actually detached to reduce bulk from the machine, and then this just fits right back in there. So it's a nice little manual needle threader tool for you. All right, now I'm going to put my cover stitch extension table back on here, flip that back up, and I'm going to switch back out from threading, put this up. And then I'm going to hit my little check mark there, and then I am set for my cover stitch. So I'm going to practice on a little scrap piece first. Before I ever do anything, I always like to just use what I call, you could call it a thread pig, but usually I just use the same scrap until I sew over it so many times, just to make sure that I have everything threaded right. I'll trim off my little loose thread there. And I see my stitches coming out beautifully, as it should. And I'm just going to chain off, just to get us started here. And now I'm going to show you guys one of the absolute coolest techniques you could do on your serger here. And that is going to be how to make these awesome half square triangles all on a serger and then put them together to make an actual block. So what's really nice is with our foot, we have these different little guidelines right here, and they actually line up with our needles. So I can go ahead and line up my one line right here, and I like to start a little bit closer, so I lift my foot, and then I can follow along that guide. And what's also nice too is this gives us a perfect 1/4 inch from this end of the foot right here, so I could even line that up along my cut line. That way I know that I'm staying at a perfect 1/4 inch. So we're going to take that little thread tail to the back, and then we're going to just kind of use that to help guide us through in the beginning. And then we could just kind of go at a nice consistent speed. Now I am on a little bit of an angle here, so I kind of can't look at it from the front. But we're just going to follow right along that line right there. And then whenever we're finishing off with our chain stitch, so we can't backstitch on the serger, the way we're going to secure this is we're just going to go straight back, and then we're going to snip our threads, because we're going to use this end of the thread here to help get this guided in the very beginning of our next step. So for our next line, we're actually going to turn on our cutting blade so that we could do these triangles without having to use a rotary cutter. And I'm going to just line that up. I'm going to take a couple stitches here real quick, and then see how I'm using that tail to kind of help pull this to the side in the very beginning. That way it doesn't get caught under the blade. And now with my hand, I can easily kind of separate it. Alrighty, and then we'll go straight back just like that. And like that, we made our half square triangles all on the serger. So really, really fun, really easy. And it's also just such a fun, unique way of using your sergers as well. And what I like to call it too, is it's the machine with an endless bobbin. I mean, being able to use an entire thread cone to do any of your straight stitching, whether it's for bag making, garment sewing, or even quilting, that's really cool. And another nice thing to note too, is with our chain stitches, they actually allow for a little bit of stretch. So you don't even have to worry about using your quilting thread. You could use your regular serger thread because it will still allow to stretch out a little bit over time as your quilt ages. In fact, you'll see this stitch a lot for a lot of different applications, even with garments. So even if I flip up the bottom of my jeans here, you'll see that chain stitch to allow for that little bit of stretch with this stretch denim. So that's another really nice thing about using that chain stitch whenever you're quilting, because you don't have to worry about using super expensive thread all the time too. So that's a really cool thing with the serger here. Now I'm going to show you guys too how you could take these blocks and sew those together. I'm first going to iron my seams down, but we are going to switch out our tray here. We're going to go from cover stitch to our overlock tray. And I'm just going to put that in there. And we're going to slide that guide right to that line for a perfect 1/4 inch. And yes, we could actually keep the blade on in this section as well, because that will be able to trim those dog ears for us. So really cool. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I am going to press these really quickly. And I do like to use a little bit of best press anytime I'm quilting. It just kind of makes it a little bit easier and more workable with the fabric as well. Now there's another really cool thing I am going to show with this serger too, and you can actually select different fabrics on it as well to preset your tension. So maybe you're serging over something that's like a leather or a vinyl, or you're going over heavy denim or even a quilting cotton. You can actually set your tension that way with the little creative guide that's built in. So we're going to take these and we're going to pin them together right at the seam here. And I just kind of like to pop a pin in it, just kind of diagonally to line them up perfectly. And then I'll put another pin right there, because I'm going to use these little thread tails too as I kind of chain and cut off to help kind of guide me in the very beginning as well. So we could see I can kind of use those to help get that under there a little bit. And then we're just going to line that up. And then we could serge. And we're able to cut off those little dog ears all in one go. And we could sew that seam. And this is where I would normally use my trim bin a little bit too, just to catch any little extra scraps. And sometimes it's really nice to use the serger with this straight stitch here, just because sometimes if we don't have a charm pack, we cut it ourselves and we know that it will sometimes fray on us if it's not pinked. It kind of just cuts any of those little loose edges for us so that it's nice and kind of cleaned up before we go to quilt it. There we go. We could see I sewed my seam just like that. And then I could do the same thing to make a full block for it all on the serger. So that is a really cool thing you could do with it. Now, another thing that I saw that I really liked is that you can control your speed on this serger as well. So if we tap on this button right here, that actually brings up our speed dial. So our max speed is 1,350 stitches per minute, which is how fast that needle bar can move up and down in a minute. But maybe that's too fast for me and I want to slow it really slow and go to the slowest I can. That way, just like many other machines, whenever I press down on it, it's not going to go take off. So it's really a great feature to have speed control on your serger. And then whenever we hit this home button as well, it gives us a couple other different buttons. And one of my favorite features with all of the Bernina machines that they have is this little creative assistant, which is this little dress form icon. And whenever we tap on that, it brings up all of these different little fabric icons. And you might be going, well, John, what do some of these mean? Whenever we tap on one, like this one right here that looks like a leather hide, it will ask us, what type of seam are we doing? Are we hemming something? Are we overlock something or flat locking? Maybe cover stitch or making a seam. But let's say I was hemming something, with like a faux leather. It will actually give us the recommended thread, the recommended needles, recommended foot. And whenever I hit that little check mark there, it walks us through threading whichever stitch it is, just like it does with the other ones. But then it's going to preset that tension for us specifically for that project, which is an absolutely amazing feature because every fabric works a little bit differently. And sometimes you maybe need a little bit more tension on your thread for something like a faux leather, or a little bit less tension on your thread for something that might be a little bit more lightweight. So that's a really amazing feature that you have with that creative assistant. And I could set that for any other type of fabric here. So maybe I go back to that home icon, and let's say I'm doing blue jeans or denim with the little denim pocket. And maybe I'm going to be pressing my seams open. A lot of our jeans sometimes only go through that single layer, and our seams are pressed open on the inside. So I could select it and walk through that whole process as well, which is really awesome. Now, another thing that you might be saying, John, I don't want to walk through a threading guide every single time that I go to thread my machine or change my stitch. So there is two modes. There's the guided mode, which I really love because it makes it super friendly, even as somebody who does use a serger a lot. But there's also an expert mode where it will just change it for you. You just hit the check mark and then you would thread it yourself with the guide. So, but I kind of like to prefer the guided mode. Now, another super cool feature about the Bernina machines as well is this little question mark icon. If I don't know what something is, I could tap that question mark, tap anywhere on the screen of the machine here, so maybe the heart, and it will say your personal memory right there, and it tells you what it is. So that's a very helpful feature that's on all of the Bernina machines, not just the serger here. So, but that's a little bit of an overview of the Bernina L890. It is one of our favorite sergers. That's a combo one. It's Bernina's top of the line, and it is just a fantastic one, whether you are a bag maker, a garment sewer, or a quilter. And there are just so many possibilities that you could do with this lovely serger right here. But I do want to mention, if you are interested in a new serger or a new sewing machine, please feel free to give us a call at 412-344-2330. Option 2 will take you to me or Steve, and we will be more than happy to set up an in-person demo with you or a live video demo with you over the phone. So we are more than happy to help you find the correct machine for you. Now, I do have a couple other things that I am going to show you guys today, and since it is our Bernina Day, I have a lot of new Bernina feet that we get to demo that we haven't shown before. So, but before I get into that, I want to show you guys my new favorite machine. I've had one of these for probably like years, but we finally have them here, And I cannot tell you guys how amazing these are. And let's turn on this light real quick. So this is a fabric shaver and a lint remover. And how many times do you guys have an old crew neck or old sweatshirt that's pilled, and then you go to try to use a lint roller and it just doesn't come off? Usually it's with those cheaper sweatshirts, like I don't want to say the brand name, I don't want to get in trouble, but you know, you'll find like all those like little fuzzies on it and you just can't get them off, and then you end up getting a pair of tweezers to try to get them off. Well, with this right here, this is a fabric shaver and it's perfect for keeping your projects nice. I used it on my one bag recently that's made out of tweed because it was just getting beat up. But it has these little blades on the inside with a protective cover so that whenever you're going over something that is pilled, it will kind of shave it down to make it nice and fresh, like it was brand new. And I kind of want to see if I could catch this on an angle here. So Gloria has one of her favorite sweaters right here. And I wonder if they can kind of see on their end. It's a little hard for me to see on my end. But this end here, it's starting to get a little bit more fuzzy. You could see that the wear end is there. And then this end looks a lot more newer and fresher. So whenever we go over that, it's actually going to trim down that fabric to make it look brand new and unpill it. And then what's nice too is it collects all the lint in this little trimmer bin right here. And we could see it was shaving it down. I can see the green. So this is a really great way of keeping not only your clothes keeping nice and fresh, but also your different projects you work on. Whether it's a crew neck you made, or a bag that you were working on, or even a quilt that maybe you use actually as a throw quilt that gets washed a lot. It's a great way of keeping everything look refreshed and renewed and restored. So I absolutely love these. I think everybody needs 2 of them because I have 2 back at home, and I can guarantee you that I use it a lot because I like to keep my stuff looking brand new and make it last as long as I possibly can. Then we have a lot of other fun things. So I'm going to demo some feet with you guys too. But one real quick thing I wanted to show for all of our embroidery lovers out there is I do have the Trapunto medallion pillow that we designed, I think a little over, when we do this? Was this last Monday? Was this just last Monday? Okay, I don't know why I felt like it felt like 2 weeks ago. But we have the design set here on the USB. So there's a couple different sizes. So it goes from 6 by 10 all the way up to 11 5/8 by 18. So you could do in any of those different hoop sizes there, and I have them all pre-digitized. Here's the 6 by 10 one here. So if you have a 6 by 10 hoop size, which a lot of the Berninas have, or maybe a Baby Locker Brother, you're able to stitch this design out in a mini version of the pillow front. And then it also goes up to 8 by 12, 9.5 by 14, 10 5/8 by 16, and the biggest, 11 5/8 by 18. So you can make this really beautiful pillow front. We absolutely love this design. It's so fun. So I have it preloaded on the USB here. They are PES files. If you do need a different format, please feel free to put it in your order notes, or you could just send me an email, and I will make sure that I have the specific format that you need for your machine for your flash drive. So, and we'll do that upon request. But it's really fun, a really fun, cool new design that we did. And those are going to be shipping out today. And we also did post the instructions on Facebook the other day as well. So, that's going to fall. Okay, so what else do we have here? So let's grab the bobbins. So for all of our Bernina machines, one of the most lovely things is the bobbins that it works with. And the 570 behind me gets to use these jumbo bobbins right here. And they're really cool the way that they're engineered because they actually have this little sensor on them as well, which helps the machine track how much thread is left on that bobbin. So that's one of the really cool things. And I guess just for reference and size comparison, this is a Bernina bobbin right here. And then here's one of our Baby Lock and Brother bobbins. So it is much, much bigger, and it holds a lot more thread, so less bobbin changes, and it really helps out whether you're a quilter or garment sewer, because the worst thing is winding like 3 of these for one project. So I have those in the bubble right now, and I did forget to mention too, anything that is purchased today with all the accessories is qualifying for the 10% back in Gloria Bucks. So you'll get 10% back on anything you buy today, and you get to use that for your next purchase. I always say, best credit back system in the entire world. I don't know another company that does this. I don't even know how we do this. Okay, and then if you need a lot more bobbins, you could get one of the jumbo boxes here. So this is 25 bobbins, and I always say this is a little bit of the better value here. You really want to stock up on bobbins any single time you get a machine, just because you know the hassle of trying to find one that's empty and then you have to unwind it. So
So for these bobbins, do they work with different machines? Like I see that the first ones were 4, 5, and 7, and then the second ones are 4, 5, 7, and 9.
yes, so you could use these bobbins interchangeably. It should be for the 9 series as well for these bobbins. But any of the current line Berninas use these bobbins here. So some of the older ones use like the old metal styles. And these are the newer ones that are plastic with the sensor so it doesn't scratch the inside of the casing. Because metal on metal will grind down over time. So these are the newer ones for more current models of Berninas. All right, now let's talk about some of the books. So I love, love, love these Bernina books because there's so many different techniques and features that you could learn about your machines, but not only just your machines, but sewing techniques and just so many cool different features that you didn't even know you could do. So the first one I want to talk about, and this is their most popular book, is the Big Book of Feet. Good thing it's not actual feet because it's just presser feet, because I would not want a big book of feet. That would be weird, right? But I love this book because one thing I did learn when I was at the Bernina convention is so many different techniques that are referenced in this book here, showing all the different ways to use every single one of their feet, whether it's cording or you're using it to make rope bowls. There's so many different ones. Using the leather quilting roller foot and showing you different techniques on how to use that foot, which is really, really cool. So I know for all of our Bernina lovers out there, it's a great reference book because it teaches you so much that you wouldn't know off the bat. And then, so this is the Big Book of Presser Feet. And then up next, I have the Big Book of Serging. So if you do get one of the L890s, this is one of the best books that you could get with it because it shows you all the different techniques that you could do on your serger as well, showing how to set everything up, fun things that you can make with it, and just really, really fun ways of using your machine. So Kathleen, if you want to give us a call about the different models of the Berninas that we carry, the 8 series is now discontinued. They have the 4, 5, 7, and 9 series that are still being made. And we carry all of those, so if you want to give us a call, feel free to. But yeah, so this is a Big Book of Serging, even showing you those different techniques with gathering your fabric, how to make ruffles on the serger. Absolutely love. There's so many different things you could do on the serger. And then for all of our embroidery lovers out there too, we have the Big Book of Embroidery, which is really, really awesome here. So it shows you all about the different hoops and different techniques, and it also gives you some fun different projects that you could do. But even like seeing here, how to use embroidery for the neckline of a garment. And as somebody who mainly makes clothes myself, I absolutely love seeing different techniques of incorporating those beautiful stitches into clothing as well and learning the techniques and how to do so. I can't show you guys everything with the book, but it does show you a lot. Even using your decorative stitches in embroidery to use those for maybe your quilt blocks or your borders, which is really, really awesome as well. I'm not allowed to show you guys every single thing in the book. I wish I could. I could flip through this book non-stop, but I'm not allowed to. Alrighty. Now, we also have some other different feet. So let's scroll down a little bit. Let's go up. Or, okay, maybe they're not in yet. So why don't I start off with some of our quilting thread in case you guys are looking at stocking up, which is what we absolutely love. So you guys know that we love Aurifil thread. This is one of the best quilting threads that you could get. It's 100% cotton, and these are the top 5 most used colors. So we use these ones all the time, and I'm going to just kind of run through them here. So we have black, and then we have white here. So we always have these in stock. It's the best quilting thread ever. And then we also have our light gray one. I think this one's called Dove, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think this one's Dove. And then we have our darker shade of gray here, which is a little bit more of like a charcoal. And then we have our light tan, or I guess you could call it kind of taupe. So Sophie's just kind of clicking through those so that you guys see the different options that you have there. But if you're looking at stocking up, you could always use these threads. And yes, you could use these threads here on your serger as well. You'd want to get 2 of them if you're going to do the serger straight stitch. If you are dead set on using your quilting thread whenever you are doing your serger straight stitch. However, because that chain stitch, it allows for that little bit of stretch for over time. So you can use your regular serger threads as well, which Sophie has in the bubble right now, and she's just going to click through them. We have a bunch of different colors, so if you are looking at stocking up on some serger threads, today is going to be the day to do it, because you are going to get that 10% back in Gloria bucks as well. Now let's talk about rollers, because I have a few of these left, and I went down in shipping and I was like, wait, I still have these. So this is a limited edition pink 6x24 roller, and it's the Poppy Cotton edition, which I absolutely love this one because it's a nice little brighter shade than the standard yellow that we always use for everything. And it is just such a beautiful shade. It has that nice little rose in there as well. So it works just with our gypsy strippers, the exact same with the non-stick back. So maybe if you want a little bit of a change up in your roller collection, the nice light shade of pink is really the way to go. Alrighty, and then I also have the standard non-slip roller as well in the yellow colorway. And then I also have this 3x18 roller, and this one's been really, really popular. Sometimes you don't want to use the biggest one. We just need something that's a little bit smaller just for certain projects, or maybe we're using a smaller cutting mat. But with any of these Quilter Select rollers, they're absolutely amazing since they don't slip on your fabric and they really grip everything down. Just to show you guys, I'll take some fabric here, and then whenever I set that on and I go to move it, the fabric's not slipping itself. I'm just kind of moving it with the roller. I'm easily able to line up and cut. So whether I'm cutting out blocks or strips, it's perfect for that. Okay, and then let's show some of the different feet that we have here, because there's a lot of really cool techniques that you could do with some of these Bernina feet here, and I really want to show you guys how they work on the 570 behind me. So let's start off with number 10D, and this is actually their most popular foot. So one thing that I did learn in the big book of feet here, and I don't think I could show it, but this is the most used foot that you could do the most different techniques with. Not only can you do edge stitch with, but you could do stitch in a ditch. You could do joining, so kind of like doing a Spanish hem stitch, and so many more different techniques. So I'm going to show you guys how you put it on and how it kind of works with the Berninas over here. So let's go over to the machine here. Alrighty. So what I really love about the Berninas is how heavy duty they are. So especially if you are a bag maker, or maybe you like to make garments like me, and I love making jackets. That's one of my favorite things. And sometimes we have super heavy seams. The Bernina is able to go through them with ease. And the feet change out really easily. So rather than being snap-on, they're all high shank. And so they're all handmade and hand polished. I always say holding it is like holding a piece of jewelry. That is how well made they are and polished. But they switch out really easily. So we'll put this one on here and we'll flip that little lever in the back to lock it in. Now, because this foot ends with D, any of the Bernina feet that end with a D actually work with the dual feed. So on select Bernina models, some of them have this really cool built-in dual feed that works as a walking foot that's built in on our machine. We don't have to take anything off or attach anything. It just flips down from the back, which is so helpful and so useful. And you could turn it on and off whenever you like. But let's just go ahead and put this foot on here. And we're also going to turn on that dual feed. And so with our edge stitch foot, the way that it is intended is if we are going to do a stitch along the edge of a piece of fabric. So maybe we're hemming something, or we sewed a flat felled seam, we can easily use that built-in guide to line up our fabric. So on the 570 here, for our presser foot lower button, we'll just use this. Or with the Berninas, one thing I absolutely love is using our knee lift. I always use my knee lift on my machine back at home, and it works really nicely. And then I'm going to go over a couple of the different buttons on this machine as well. So what's really cool is we can increase and decrease our length of our stitch with these knobs right here. And what I really love is that it allows you to be super precise with your stitch, which is so important sometimes with quilting or bag making, because if you're doing that top stitch, you want it to look absolutely flawless. So we can increase by 0.05 increments on the screen here, which I think is super helpful if you're being very particular about a certain stitch or decorative stitch. But for top stitch, let's do 4. And then this knob up top here lets us do our width of a stitch. So we could turn that into a zigzag stitch right there if we want to. But I'm going to go all the way back down. And then we have our left-right shift for our needle here. So for my edge stitch, I'm actually going to shift over my needle 2 positions to do a really nice edge stitch. And it will even tell you on the screen here, -2 for whenever we go over this way, and then it will say +2 for the opposite end. And then we have all the features and functions that we love on a machine. So if we want to kind of end off a decorative stitch, we could actually use this button here, kind of like that knot button. Then we have our needle up, down. We have our speed control, which I always say you want a machine with speed control. We have our start and stop button, presser foot up and down, our thread cutter, and then our reverse stitch as well. So with our edge stitch foot, we could easily line up our machine here. Now, here's something really helpful with the Berninas. You do have to plug in which foot you're using so that you could do the correct stitch. It's a really great safety feature on the machine. And it also kind of helps your machine set up. So right now, I have the machine set up for the standard foot that I was using before, which is 1C. So let's tap here. And it gives you a really nice reference guide of all of the different feet. So why don't we switch over to number 10D, and we'll just scroll down here and select that. And we'll hit X. And now whenever I go to sew, it's going to let me. So that's a really helpful safety feature. And we can see how that dual feed works. It helps pull through that fabric from the upper end, which is very, very helpful. especially when we are doing edge stitching, and especially if this was a garment, you know, that's something that's going to be super important. Alrighty. But we could see that I was able to easily stitch along the edge right there flawlessly, which is super, super helpful. And let's just release our threads real quick, because my thread accidentally got caught on there. There we go. And then we have our little thread cutter on the side. But yeah, that's how the edge stitch foot works. So it's very, very helpful, especially whenever we are doing something that we want to line up perfectly. Okay, now I have a couple other different feet that I was going to show too. So, two of our favorite feet that we always use for different projects. And this is one of the most popular ones. I always say that as soon as we get this foot in, it always goes out the door the same day. So this is your Teflon foot, number 52D. So this one actually works with the dual feed as well, since it has that slot in the back of it, which allows you to use it on any of the series that end with 70 or 90. So kind of like a little trick with the Berninas that I learned is that they usually have the same looking machine, but they have different model names. So on the 30 or 40 series, usually the feed dogs are a little bit closer. So you have the 7mm stitch plank, which is really good for garment sewers or anybody that's doing fine piece piecing. But then whenever you go up to any of the series that have a 70 or 90 in the ending of it, they actually have the 9mm stitch plate, which lets you do a wider zigzag stitch, a lot bigger decorative stitches, and lets you use any of those feet that have that built-in dual feed, which is really cool to have. So that's some of the little bit of the difference. And one of these days, we're gonna do a comparison video, just showing the different series side by side so you could see the differences. And then we also have the leather quilting roller foot. So I showed this foot the other day for one of the other brands we carry, but this is the Bernina version. So this foot is really good for if you are working with, you know, leather or vinyl, and instead of using your regular non-stick foot, sometimes you want to be able to see your needle if maybe you're stitching along the edge of a certain fabric here. So because it rolls along, it doesn't score the fabric, and it lets you fully be able to see your needle. And this also lets you do really cool different quilting motions because it kind of rolls on a diagonal that you could place it with. But it was originally intended for glove makers, which I think is really cool to kind of show that you could use the same foot for different techniques. Okay. And then I have a couple different serger feet. So if you do already own one of the Bernina sergers or the L890, here's a couple different feet that work with it that I know I've shown for some of the baby lock sergers, but here's some of them for the Bernina. So the first one here is going to be our clear toe foot. So sometimes we love to be able to see exactly what's going underneath, and having those clear feet really gives us full visibility to see exactly where we're stitching. And then we also have our ruffling foot. So this is another great foot to use with your serger. Whenever you get it out of the box, you are going to want to prime it by bending this a little bit. And this lets you do so many different techniques, being able to do ruffles on the serger and attach them to a tea towel. Really is an awesome method of using that machine. And then we also have the compensating foot. So whenever you're doing a cover stitch on your serger here, it's really cool because you can do flat felled seams all in one go, and you can kind of do your top stitching with it because that compensating foot will allow it to kind of use one of those grooves on either side. kind of like one of the bi-level feet here, to line up that seam and do perfect top stitching with it. So that compensating foot is always a must-have with your cover stitch machines. Okay, and then I think that's almost everything, but I do want to talk about two other really cool things. So a lot of people this past week have came in for specifically sewing chairs, and I figured I would show one of my favorite ones, which is the Arrow sewing chairs here. So we could see they come in so many fun, different, bold, and beautiful prints here, but they're perfect. This spot really just hits you perfect on the back whenever you are sewing. It hits the perfect spot. And then my favorite part about this is that the upper part lifts here so that you could hide everything that's super important, like your fabric scissors, in here, and nobody will ever notice. They are also height adjustable as well. So it's a great sewing chair to have for your sewing room. And there's so many fun different patterns. And these all do qualify for the 10% back. These will ship directly from Arrow themselves. So you'll get it right away, usually within about a week, but they are amazing different chairs. So there's a couple different patterns that Sophie's gonna go through in the lineup. So the one behind me that I'm sitting on is the Sew Wow, Sew Now, which is the most popular pattern. But there's also the Cats pattern, which is called Cat's Meow. There's also Sewing Notions, Bright Buttons, and then I thought there was one more. Maybe we didn't add it in. We could add it in later. But there's so many fun different bold prints to choose from, so you could always go through. Yeah, the dog. I knew we were missing one. I have a dog back at home, so I like the dog ones. But yeah, those are all the different options of chairs that we have here for the Arrow chairs. One of the best sewing chairs that you could have. So, but because I did see a couple different questions and comments with the email Gloria did send out. So I will just kind of address it on the live. Gloria did send out an email the other day. So if you did purchase a machine out of state, and if you kind of want to help us out here, just filling out that form does help her out a lot. Steve and I have gotten a lot of calls about it. We were going to send out an email ourselves to address it. So yes, that email was sent from Gloria just in regards to filling out one of those forms for us. But I think that's all I have for today. So I hope that everybody has a wonderful Tuesday. I hope that you guys are making some fun bags and that you watched Tiffany earlier and that you guys do something fun. Maybe cook something fun too. It's Taco Tuesday. So, alrighty, but that's all I have for you guys today. So have a wonderful day.